Good evening and happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there, and welcome to this Sunday, May 9th edition of the Iron Stats Cricket Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Joining me are co-hosts Dean Miners and Andre Doc Manders. And our guest this evening is Oscar Andrade, the president of the Bermuda Umpires Association. First of all, good evening to the co-hosts. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good evening, Earl.
Good
evening, Doc.
Good.
Good evening to all the mothers out there.
What's that?
Yes, happy Mother's Day to everyone. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Thank you again, Mr. President, for giving up your time to discuss the sport of cricket and the aspect of umpiring. Obviously, there were a lot of changes made last year with the scheduling, with the way we played the sport due to COVID. COVID's still around, but the unknown is the unknown for this coming season. But let's talk a little bit about last season and how you guys were able to kind of manufacture getting double headers done on Saturdays and Sundays at the locations in which they played the game. So how did that work out for the umpires over the course of the several months that we did play cricket last year?
Good evening, Earl, Dean, Andre, and listeners. Happy Mother's Day to all out there. Last year actually came off pretty well. I thought we were a bit shorthanded in terms of numbers of umpires because we did have a few folks that, due to health reasons or other reasons, kind of stayed out of the middle for the season. And prior to the season, there was a lot of groundwork done between the BCB exec and the BCUA exec, discussing what kind of protocols we would put in place to cater for COVID. Some of those were requirements to satisfy the health department. Some of those were requirements to satisfy our members. But we came to a reasonable middle ground, I think. It worked reasonably well. We had a few teething problems right at the beginning, but then people seemed to get into the routine of it, of getting into the ground and checking temperatures and people, keeping their distance, certainly from the players and the officials and scores and things. We were wearing masks and things around the players off the field. And basically once we stepped onto the field, we left it up to the umpires to decide, to a man as to whether or not they wanted to wear masks while they were out there. For me personally, being out in the heat with the mask on was a bit much. Tried it, but didn't really like it and decided it wasn't going to work. I mean, really, we changed quite a few things in terms of protocols to do, even with handling the ball. So at the fall of a wicket, instead of the cricket balls normally would come back to the umpire, we got the players into the habit of putting the ball on the ground near us. Throw it near us, we don't necessarily pick it up. Some of the players will tell you I'm reasonably adept at back flicking the ball with my heels. I can pick it up off the ground without having to use hands. So that came in handy last year. But we've talked again this year about what protocols worked and what things we'd like to see in place. One of the things that we have talked about with the BCB and the cricket committee is perhaps them providing us with some sanitary wipes for the cricket balls when they do get hit into the stands and into the ground, and they're handled by people that aren't players or aren't officials. So a fan picks up a ball and throws it back. There was a little bit of concern around it last year, but obviously we can only carry so much on us as well in terms of trying to move around as umpires. So some of us, I've actually resorted to a small pouch, which I've never had before, to keep extra things like gloves and cleaners and hand sanitizer. And obviously even things like getting refreshments when we come off the field. Before, where it was reasonably communal, we were picking up cups and sharing cups and pick up a bottle, you don't necessarily know where it's been. We kind of went away from that as well. So we were having to take our own drink and thing with us to the ground if we were doing more than the one game, especially if you're doing two games back to back. Because even that, from an umpiring point of view, it's each innings is 90 minutes. So you're talking about an hour and a half, 20-minute break between, plus there's time added on for balls leaving the field, injuries, that kind of thing. So you're really talking about, if everything runs according to Hoyle, probably somewhere between 3 hours and 20 minutes, 3 hours and 40 minutes for an innings. And that's if it goes real smooth for the game. And then, depending on what the gap is between the games, you've only got that time to come off the field, get yourself sorted out for the next game, new cards, new sheets, get a drink, and then turn around and get the toss done, technically 20 minutes before the start time of the next game. So if the other game runs late, you get into this crazy overlap where, if there's different umpires doing the second game, they can actually handle the toss off the field if they have to. Find somewhere that's do it there, not necessarily on the pitch. But to be fair to the two captains, they need to see the pitch. So if they're not there early enough where they can come out in between the innings, it's not really fair to let them take the toss and they haven't seen the pitch yet. There was some conversation last year, and there is conversation this year about perhaps trying to do triple headers. Didn't really look like it was going to work last year. It's being talked about again this year, but we'll see. There's a lot of things to take into account before everybody agrees.
I think he's got a bit of a problem there. But Doc, when you start hearing triple headers as a coach, how much does that worry you?
Oh, that's that's an early time. That's if you think a triple header's got to have to start 8:30. That means being at the field 7:30. That means club's got to be involved. Getting the club open early. Grounds got to be there early. Players got to be there early. So how they're going to do that, I don't know. But hopefully, if they go that way, the clubs is going to have to be involved, and the players are going to have to. Sometimes these players can't even make 9:30, so I don't know how I'm going to make like 8:30 triple header. But if you think about it, being that these guys have been playing cricket for so long, while, it might work out. I don't know, but the clubs, players, everybody's going to have to be involved. That if they do a triple header, definitely. And as a coach,
what's your early thoughts, Dean?
I guess for the listeners that are listening here, we're talking about the 2020 format, right? So, because I know people might get confused, like, what do you guys? All right, so it's 2020 format. I think because players haven't played in quite some time, I think there will be a great interest. I want to leave it to the players to say, and if they know that, I mean, I don't know about the tournament that's coming up, but if they know that, cup match could be potentially in the distance, in the near future, if that could be something that be coming up, that could be a driving force to get the players there. But you're talking about 3 games in one day. That's a lot of cricket. That is quite a bit of cricket. And to start early in the morning, and with the commitment from the groundsman, the staff, just like Doc said, that it's going to be you got to be committed. You have to be committed in this one.
Well, the interesting fact, and hopefully Oscar comes right back, but the interesting fact would be that there's only kind of 2 groups of people that will do the long day, and that is 1, the groundsman, and 2, the umpires, because the teams will change.
Of course.
So you'll play 1 game, but there'll be 3 games on, and if an umpire has to double up or even triple up, that person's there for the entire day. So I think that's where I think that obviously Oscar, who is in charge of the umpires, or the president of the umpires, they'll have some I guess a bit of a worry. But just to let our listeners know, our viewers know, that the ICC America's T20 qualifiers have been postponed.
Okay.
The ICC announced that on Friday, that those matches have been postponed. And we want to say welcome back, Oscar.
Yeah, apologies. I'm not sure what happened there. Everything went away.
The internet just froze on us. But you were saying, there was some talk about a triple header. We did mention amongst ourselves just recently how much of a struggle it would be for your organization if someone has to double or even triple up, because basically it'd be teams playing. They'll play their game and leave, but the umpires have to facilitate the entire day, kind of thing.
Right. And that, as I said, that window is a challenge as well between the games, because obviously we're trying to get off the field, get the new team's captains to be able to look at the pitch before the toss, take the toss. The toss is supposed to be 20 minutes before the start of the next game. And then us turn around and get back out there and basically do another game where we're tied up for the next 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Mhm.
So it is something that can be done. Obviously, the less grounds they're using, the easier it is for us to do. So a triple header is possible if I'm at 2 or 3 grounds. I may have enough guys to do that. But if we start getting into 6, 7, 8 grounds, then we're starting to struggle for numbers. Our numbers look like they should be a bit better this year. We had a recent umpires course that ran through end of February, March, into the beginning of April. And we had 7 people take that course. The really good news, which gives me a lot of hope for the future, is 3 of the people that took the course were actually 22 and under, current players.
Oh, wow.
And we are trying our best to encourage the cricket board to have it become part of the curriculum for the under-19 team, that they're required to do an umpire's course. We think it would help them with their cricket. It would help them understand the laws. Certainly, talking to the 3 gentlemen that did the course just now, they learned things about cricket that they had no clue, and these guys, in some cases, have been playing for a lot of years. Even as umpires, we post that course. Roger and I taught the course, and post that we started our weekly Tuesday night calls amongst the umpires ourselves, and we usually throw out some questions, some challenge questions for guys to work on, and then we've got slide decks that are around particular laws. And there are things there where you will get someone like Emerson Carrington, who's an international umpire, myself, who has quite a bit of experience now, and we will have completely different opinions about the same question. And it's all based on law, but there's a lot of things in the law that is open to interpretation in terms of how you see it, right?
Yeah.
For instance, I'll ask you one of the questions. Situation where a player doesn't play a ball, doesn't offer a shot, ball hits his pad caroms off, so no ball, caroms off, and after it caroms off the pad, it hits a helmet, a fielder's helmet, that's down behind the wicketkeeper. So in that scenario, the no ball obviously stands.
Yeah.
The question becomes does the batting team get penalty runs because the ball struck a fielding helmet?
Yes.
There's 2 different ways to look at this. So you're saying yes, right, Dean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no.
I was going to say no because the ball's dead.
Why?
Right, it's not the ball's not dead.
No, it's still alive.
Even though he didn't offer a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's the situation: man doesn't offer a shot, the ball hits his pad, and the 2 batsmen take off. The umpire does not call dead ball right away because the fielders have an opportunity to run those people
To run them up. Okay.
Yeah.
Do not call dead ball until the completion of the first run or the
Right.
ball's to the boundary. If either one of those things happen, then it's dead ball. Otherwise, you let the 2 batsmen attempt to make their ground. But in the case of the not offer the shot, other than the no ball penalty run, that's it. Because once he doesn't offer the shot, they can still try and run him out if they try and run. But when the ball hits the helmet, the ball is deemed to have been dead because there's no stroke over. They can't make a signal. That would kill the ball. So they don't get any penalty runs either. But again, there's 2 different ways to look at that. Like the ball's hit the fielding helmet, right? There are even more odd things that can go on to do with helmets and runs and balls hitting umpires and things like that.
But yeah, interesting you said that, Oscar. But you think about it, how many times in a game that will happen, and then being an umpire, you'd be confused because a scenario that happen, and right away you gotta think, it's crazy. Right. You gotta be aware of it.
Right.
The best thing is to do is to confer.
So I've been umpiring officially since 2008, and I'm going to tell you, things happen still that you just don't believe. I've never seen that before. And you don't have a lot of time, right? You've got 1,000, 1,002 to kind of run through your head to try and figure out what happened there. And is that
Yeah.
the right way to look at it? So, I mean, umpires are not infallible, right? There was some footage that got shared amongst the umpires the other day. And again, a test match level umpire. And again, their world's changed a bit too, because now all of a sudden they're not even calling them football no balls. It's the third umpire off the field.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, they routinely either don't see things anymore because they're not looking for them, or they're used to somebody else picking it up. So there was a game, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and as soon as we saw the playback, our reaction was not out. And people were like, oh, man, it's out as can be. Well, one of the fielders was actually encroaching on the pitch. His foot was over the edge of the pitch. And test match level umpire just didn't see it. Don't know how long the guy had been there, whether that was the first ball he'd moved in or whether he'd been there and over and maybe gradually drifted, but a little thing like that. And you got to remember, as an umpire standing behind the stumps, all these things are going on that you're trying to pick up with your eyes. So I got a bowler steaming in. First thing I've got to worry about is, where's he letting go of the ball? Right? If he's one of these tricky types that likes to occasionally bowl a ball from behind you, how far back is realistic where I can still kind of see it? Now, I'm also trying to see, where is his foot landing? Where is his back foot landing? Is he on the return crease? Because that's a no ball too. Is he crossing the plane between the two center stumps? Because that's a no ball now too. If his front foot crosses middle stump. Where's the batsman? Is the batsman in his ground? I've got to pick up the bowler attempting a run at it my end as well, whether or not the batsman's in his ground. And then once all that's going on, the man's let go of the ball. Now I've got to worry about, where did it pitch? Where did it hit the batsman? What did the ball do after it went back there? So your eyes are literally, and one of the things that we do in the training course, we tell umpires, you need to stand in a place where you can't be doing this with your head. Because if you're doing that, and there are a few bowlers in Bermuda that are quick enough to be problematic, but certainly I've done tournaments away where, I've got a guy bowling 85 plus. You can't move your head. If you move your head, you're not going to see things because the ball's already gone, pitch landed, gone, and you're still trying to catch up. You need to stand in a position where the only thing that moves are your eyes. So I need to be back enough from the stumps where I can see a bowler to my side, I can see where his feet are landing, I can see the batsman off to the right, and I can see where the ball pitches and what the batsman's doing with it. So we actually work on positioning, certainly with the new umpires and even our existing umpires. We have a field craft session. We go out there, we teach guys how you should figure out where you should stand at square, what makes sense, where you should stand, when balls are getting played, where you should be. In terms of balls in the V, you move one way, balls outside the V, you move somewhere else. All that stuff goes on that average person doesn't realize. For us, I get a little irritated watching cricket on TV because there's not enough camera angles of the umpires, because that helps a lot. You can see what's going on.
Well, Oscar, I was going to ask that question. The question I wanted to ask is just that when I look at international cricket, those umpires have it. They have it all. Because, I've seen runouts that are, come on, the guy's out by 2 feet, but he turns around and gives to the third umpire. So has these cameras made these umpires a bit more lazy?
Well, it's not lazy. They've actually been told to move to different places, right? So for us, we're trained to try and get square of the wicket, right? We're trained to get away from behind the stumps and try and get square as we can, as quickly as we can, without being in the path of a ball coming back in. So we ideally want to be able to see the batsman sliding in, the ball coming in, and someone's hands taking the ball and clearing stumps, right? For them, they're taught to go 45 degrees now because they have cameras that are trying to see the run-out line.
So they're told to get out of the way of the camera.
They can't go square. They're told, don't go square because now you're in the camera way. Go 45. Don't you worry about calling a run-out because you're not going to be in the right place anymore. That's why it's reviewed automatically, is that they're not standing in the right place to make those calls. Not that you can't make a call from 45. Some of them are blatant, you can see. But with the technology there, it's like now with the foot fault no ball, they're just automatically reviewed by the third umpire. They don't even try and look anymore.
Earl, can I ask?
Dean, keep that thought. We're going to take a quick commercial. When we come back, you could jump right into it. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Spring has sprung, and it's time for the Friends of Hospice Butterfly Blast annual raffle. The sun is shining and it's starting to heat up out there. This $1,000 Bates gift card will ensure your beverages stay chilled and you can barbecue in style. The draw date is May 22nd for a $1,000 gift card at Bates. Check out our Facebook page, Friends of Hospice Bermuda, for details. Prize donated by Bates. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back, Dean.
Yeah. I was watching a test match in England, and this umpire, and Oscar, you might be able to, I don't know if he just had a bad day, but his decisions, all right? Because, of course, in a test match, you get, these decisions, whereas you could get referrals, all right? So, each team has 3 referrals. And each decision that he had made, right, he was referred and the player was not given out. He had given the person out. What happens in that case? I mean, what happens to the umpire's confidence? Because now, he's lost confidence, and throughout the whole test match, it was just a downfall for him. So I'm looking at, of course, I'm looking at this whole camera thing and the introduction of the camera thing. I mean, what does it do to the umpires? I mean, yes, it has its benefits, but look at those things. He lost confidence.
Yeah, it's tough. Being scrutinized like that every single ball, it must wear on your conscience for sure, and make you a little either gun shy, where you're scared to give things out, or you're making a lot of wrong calls, I guess, and especially if you're one that's swayed by players. I think that the technology does offer a lot of opportunity to learn. Certainly, even last season, where Lorenzo Tucker was taping some of the games. Mm-hmm. I was able to actually go back and look at a couple of decisions that happened during games that I made. And I think, I'm trying to think, it might have even been the year before. And in the 2 cases that I can remember, both of my decisions were correct, but no guarantee. The idea was, the point was, at least I've got the chance to go back and actually have a look at something. As a rule, you try to not give someone out unless you're absolutely sure. But things can still happen at real quick speeds where you think, I'm sure that's what I saw. But, is that really what you saw? And especially the ones where the player is adamant that that's not what happened. Those are the ones that really kind of make you think twice, and you're like, I know this guy. This is not normal for him to behave like this. Maybe I really did miss it. And there's 2 things that I learned out of that. One was, I'm willing to accept that I made a mistake. That's absolutely plausible. As I said, you get one look at this stuff at full speed. There's a lot going on. You blink at the wrong second. Anything can happen. Even standing at square leg, you cannot daydream. If you daydream at square leg, you're getting in trouble. Because the one time you're looking somewhere else, something's going to happen. And then for the player's point of view, he was aware that this footage was out there, and he went and looked. And the next time he saw me, he was like, I still don't know how that happened. Because again, at full speed, everything's moving. You're a batsman. I mean, what it's like, you're flashing at something, especially when it's coming at your head. And this ball kissed the glove. All I could see was the only thing up there had to be your glove. The ball deviated. I heard a noise. It's got to be glove. He was out of it. Didn't feel this thing. Well, about a week and a half later, I bumped into somebody in the grocery store. They said, hey, that video is online, right? I said, talk about it. So, that out? Oh, yeah. So I went and looked. And the next time I saw the players, I don't know what happened yet. So, funny. I mean, there's some funny things that go on between umpires and players, especially players that have been in the game a while. Because, everybody gets emotional at the second that it happens. But if you've been playing cricket for a long time, as a lot of us have over the years, there's going to be times, Dean, where I'm sure you thought, how did that man not give me out? And then likewise, you've been given out, not even close. It happens. And no matter what we do, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. Stuff at full speed, other noises. One cup match, I can remember at Somerset, we had Trinidadian steel band that was firing up. They were being pretty good about firing up between the overs. Well, second day of cup match late in the afternoon, things start to change. People start playing the music all over the place, right?
Mhm.
So sure enough, I don't even remember who was bowling. Poor Trey Manders was batting, and balls coming from the farm end at my end, going towards the other end. And just as the guy's running in, clang, 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 and Trey backed out. He backed up like he's supposed to. He's been disturbed by the music. He stepped back. Well, you're a bowler, you're running in. What do you see? You see the batsman start to move. Your eyes following, right? So instead of the ball pitching anywhere near the stumps, it's ringing right at Trey. He closes his eyes, puts his hands down like this. The ball hits his bat, flies off the point. Big appeal from St. George's. And I'm like, no, you can't call that off from the shot. The man's just putting his bat down, the ball's hit the bat.
Mm.
So I went over to my colleague and I said, any stretch of the imagination, that's off from the shot? Nah. So person from St. George's goes, what are you doing? I say, hey, mate, you want me to give you out like that? It's all good, it's all good.
Yeah.
So there is a rapport that happens between the players and the umpires. And,
Yeah.
and it's something that you work on. It's something that you learn, and it's not everybody's thing right out of the blocks to be able to do it. Umpiring takes a lot of learning, both in the classroom and on the field.
Mm-hmm. Doc?
Oscar, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Being that the T20 is canceled, right? Postponed. I don't know when it's going to be. If they decide to do 50 overs, what's going to be the protocols then for you guys if the league starts and they play 50 over cricket?
Well, I don't think it matters which way round they do, whether they do T20 first or 50 over. It doesn't matter. It's the same sort of protocols involved. It's just more time of us on the field. And the concern last year. The concern last year.
Would they be? No, I was saying that because in the UK, after every 6 overs, they have hand sanitizers, and the players were umpires would make sure that the players they do their hands or
right
wipes do the ball every 6 overs.
Right. So
and that was mandatory. That
right. We didn't do that for the T20s last year. We were basically, if the ball left the field, we would try and clean it. If it got handled by somebody outside of the teams or the umpires. But and again, the umpires were trying not to touch the ball as much as possible. If we go to a 50 over format and the cricket board thinks that that's what they want to do, where they want to, step to the edge of the field, maybe at the water breaks every 14 overs or something like that, and while they're having the water break, do a hand sanitize. 6 overs, I think, is probably a bit overkill. The good news is starting from the umpire end, most of us are getting up there longer in the tooth and age. So quite a few of us have already had our vaccines as well. So more of us are vaccinated, which may also allow us to use some guys that weren't out there last year.
I think that's going to be a major part as well, because once the government, once they make up their minds what that plan will be, because they refuse to say what the plan is, once we reach herd immunity, some of those things may change as well, Doc.
Yeah.
Because majority of the country would already be vaccinated to a point where they will feel as if you can be a lot more freer. But until that is known, basically, the umpires can have a suggestion to the board to say we want to implement this for our safety, and again, we keep talking about the players, no representation at a meeting, so whatever's shoved down your throat is shoved down your throat, and if you don't do anything about it, you're left there accepting whatever's being put on your plate, kind of thing. So,
I think last year the bigger concern was us picking it up from a player, from a person,
right,
rather than just picking it up off the ball. And I think there's some news or articles out there that are actually playing down a bit the amount of risk to picking it up off of contact surfaces rather than over the air from people's breath or sneezing or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's diminishing a bit. Plus, quite a few of us are vaccinated, so less concern about picking it up from touching cricket balls, I think, as much. But last year, for the most part, a normal game, I'd have the ball before we started. But once the game started, end of the inning, I'd pick it up and leave the field. But for a T20, wicket falls, throw the ball by my feet, stay there by my feet while they do whatever they do. And again, that was something at the early bit of the season that they were struggling with. It was not celebrating at the fall of a wicket in the old style way of, hey, high five, big hugs, and like trying to discourage that. And again, the regulations were changed a bit so that the umpires actually had a power to be able to get them to stop doing that, or we could start issuing warnings and penalty runs and things like that to try and discourage that. We followed the ICC model of saliva on the ball. And again, I saw that on TV a couple of weeks ago. There was a game going on where a player got warned for, spitting his fingers and rubbing the ball.
Yeah.
Umpire right away called him over, called the captain over, and said, hey, can't do that. Right in his pocket, opened up a Ziploc, took out a wet wipe, cleaned the ball off, and gave it back to him.
Oscar, you have a few more minutes because we need to take another commercial break.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, we'll be right back.
For almost 150 years, John Barrett & Son have been the home of Bermuda's best beverages, and they are proud to offer us the sparkling portfolio of Sunkist sodas with their refreshing rainbow of fruit flavors. Sunkist has flavors that nostalgically remind us of the bottled soft drinks we used to call minerals. The colorful thirst quenchers that are perfect for a beautiful summer's day. This month we're featuring the original Sunkist Orange Soda and new Sunkist Zero. Orange soda with no sugar and no calories. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Oscar, just before we went to commercial, you were talking about the powers that the umpires were given for the 2020 last year. But what was some of those challenges that you guys had in ensuring that the rules that were put in place for the league to get going were maintained?
Right, so obviously all the physical security stuff to the fields and the grounds and player changing areas and umpires and stuff, that was the cricket board's responsibility. We stayed out of that. We kind of agreed what was going to happen. We were aware of what was supposed to happen for people getting into the ground. But in terms of the umpires, we really deals with the game. And the biggest challenge, as I said, is trying to keep the players who are normally relatively hands-on with each other, trying to keep them further away from each other, on the field. And once they got back into their own areas, that was again up to the cricket board to sort out their changing areas and that kind of thing, where they were changing. And then us interacting with the scorers, we had our masks on as soon as we came off the field. We were having a conversation one-on-one with the scorer. We were certainly wearing our masks to have those conversations, or keeping more than 6 feet away from them. So it's not an impossible thing to do with the scorer to have a conversation like that. And again, the fields that were being used, the scorers weren't using the scoring huts, even on the fields that have them. So for St. George's, they were in the veranda. White Hill, they were under a tent. Somerset's got the big open booth. They had all the windows up. Usually we're on the field, talking to them from the field up, except for the end of the game or end of an interval. I'm trying to think what the other ground was. St. David's.
St. David's, they were on the porch.
So again, St. David's, yeah, I think Sam was still using the scoring hut. So
Right.
again, that's got the doors and everything wide open. So it's not like they were stuck inside the little type of UK scoring huts you see. Or even Bay, I guess, is probably a little bit tighter than some of the others, Western Stars. But again, we weren't using those grounds. So from an umpire's point of view, White Hill, there's obviously no real sort of changing facilities. So we were working out of our cars under the tents. Somerset, we had the big back room that we usually have. St. George's is a bit of a problem because of where the umpire's room is at the back there. It's kind of tucked away. And in St. David's, we have one of the storerooms. And again, it's only us going in there. So I mean, last year worked with the 4 fields. I thought it worked well. I think it was a good setup for the fans. It was good for sure for the first division teams, where there were premier games right after them. We were getting people at those games. I think for some of the players, they probably never got to play in front of what you could call a crowd, I guess. And you could see quite a bit of improvement in some of the teams, both in their playing and their attitudes on the field seemed to improve, we really only had the one incident that comes to mind last year, and that was, you know, a younger player getting involved with people in the crowd that were also not helping the situation.
Right.
Oscar, I have a question for you, and it goes a little bit back to your initial, you know, like the little quiz that you gave us. We had talked some years ago about the level of understanding or the level of knowledge of the common player in Bermuda, understanding the rules of the game. Do you think, it's gonna be at you, do you think that the average player in Bermuda understands the rules, the regulations? Do you think that they're up on?
I think we should be fair. I don't think it's just our players in Bermuda necessarily that also struggle with the laws and regulations.
Okay.
I think it's a game, and it's especially in Bermuda where we all start playing really young, and most of us,
Yeah.
even at school level, you know, I certainly grew up West Pembroke area. There's always a game going on behind the church up in West Pembroke. There, we were knocking tennis balls into HWP's car park, and they had the dogs, the ball out there was lost for 6 and out. You know, you grow up learning the game sort of like that. It's not a game where in the schools it's taught the laws first and then go play.
Yeah.
And I think over time in the schools here, for whatever reason, a lot of the PE teachers that I'm aware of, there's probably a higher percentage of non-cricket playing PE teachers. They're more soccer and other sports. So I think that the entire knowledge of the game has kind of changed, certainly in Bermuda, and we focus on playing, and you do that with youngsters. You want them to play, right? That's the whole bit. Get them out there playing. That's the objective. Get them out of the house, get them playing. And then the laws should come next. The actual detailed, finicky rules. And if you're as you're growing up and becoming involved in national programs, you know, where you're looking to play internationally, I think that's really where we need to put the focus, is that those players make a transition from junior club cricket into junior national seed programs, they want to call them, like academies and that kind of thing. It's important those guys understand the rules, because there are rules and laws in most sports that if you know what you're doing, work to your advantage, or you can play them to your advantage.
Right.
We also have less problems trying to break people out of bad habits that they may have picked up because they haven't been given that foundation young enough. And I'll give you, for instance, bowlers in Bermuda, certainly school-aged kids, without having a mature club program for junior cricket, where they're being told, here's what you have to do as a bowler. The problem becomes they're playing on concrete wickets, on carpet. Nobody says to them, you can't run into the protected area. So the first time they have an umpire tell that is when they're playing more higher level club cricket, if we're lucky, or already first division or premier level cricket. And you have an umpire going, hey mate, you can't run through the protected area. You're running into the pitch. Problem is, now I come along and I'm trying to protect the pitch, double header, triple header, and I got a first division youngster who's bowling left arm over and sliding into protected area every time. And as soon as I tell him, hey mate, you got to run to the right, you got to get out of there, now his bowling goes completely haywire. He's pitching wides, he's throwing 10-foot high no balls because his whole stride pattern's gotten screwed up, his confidence is all over the place. And the reason that I have to harp on it is I've got another game coming. It's my job to protect this pitch, not just for the second innings, but now for another game. So, you know, we're not doing it to be unfair. We're doing it because those are the rules. Those are the laws. That's what we get taught.
It's interesting that you say that because, and may he rest in peace, Wilbur Pitcher. He used to be the one, every time I used to see, you know, Mr. Pitcher, he would stop me and he would ask me about the laws of the game. And to be honest with you, there were sometimes, I mean, he would definitely trip me up, right, Doc? He would just, you know, what about this? And it happened to me up at Somerset, Gennaro Tucker at Cup match. And my good friend sent me a message. He says, listen, you got to go back into the rules because Gennaro Tucker was giving out LBW. There was a mix-up. The ball hit his pad, right? The umpire put his finger up. The ball trickled around. I think he was right next to me as well, Earl. The ball trickled around and hit the stumps.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we thought that it was LBW.
He's outbowled.
He's outbowled. Because the
If
ball,
whether the ball hit the back first or not, after the
yeah,
ball
exactly.
hit the stump,
A clean
ball
ball
takes
supersedes anything.
Mm.
ball takes precedence.
So it was just those little things that you know, and Oscar does the same thing. He goes to different players, and I commend you for it as well. You go to different players and you ask different players about the rules of the game, because what happens, you like you just said, it increases knowledge, but also at the same time, it gives me the advantage of when I can use the rules of the game. And
Right.
so I generally think that I want to, you know, encourage all your umpires to continuously do it. But I've always said I would love, and I don't know if you guys do it or not, but I would love to have or do a test of knowledge throughout all cricketers throughout Bermuda, right? This is just my personal thing, as well as going ahead and doing workshops at all the different clubs to make sure that players have a firm understanding. Because I think with the increase in knowledge can be increase in skill play. That's my own personal.
There's also things that we still allow in Bermuda because our normal player, you know, he's working Monday to Friday and he's playing a game on Sunday. And let's say he gets a knock. We still allow runners. So ICC, there's no runners. You don't see all that going on in ICC anymore. So it's not even that they can see how to do it when it's on TV because you just don't see it on TV.
Right.
So when we have runners, even as umpires, it's not very often we have it. So we do go over that again with our own umpires, with trainees, etc., to go over those regulations. Because again, you think it's hard enough watching two people that are trying to figure out what's going on. And they're all
You got a comment?
dressed alike and running around, and no one's quite sure where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, that's confusing. Now, I got another question. It's pertaining to not really the laws, but when you was talking about person running on the wicket, you know, years ago when I went on my first trip, and that's coming from playing on the Metten or the Metten wicket, you run straight down the middle. So I remember going overseas in England to play. And I must have done that every time. So the umpire, you know, there was one, and not only me, all the players. Like, you know, I can't remember, it was 1970 something like that. But we wasn't used to running off the wicket, so we got at least 2 or 3 of us got warned. But that's, like I said, that's come from playing on the Metten. So
I played
used to running off the wicket.
I remember playing on straw mat. Ball makes a funny sound coming off the mat. Goofy Lambert.
But what I'm saying is,
what was going on?
It's an adjustment, like you said. It's definitely an adjustment that you need to work at. And thank goodness we don't play on Metten anymore. A lot of you guys play on turf. So a lot of the younger players, you know, they don't have that problem anymore. There's only in the school days, like you said, when they play school, or maybe I guess under 13s and but most of the time now we're playing on turf wickets, which is good. You know, and you don't have those problems anymore with
but
younger
even,
players, because
you know,
after that they start to play.
Yeah, but even the playing on turf pitches, right? So a turf pitch in Bermuda is going to play different than a turf pitch in England, than a turf pitch somewhere else. Different type of soil, different type of grass, different groundsman. Ball's going to move different in the air based on weather type factors, humidity, heat, wind patterns. It is still, batting is still an art form. That's why, you know, the opener bats make their bread and butter on being able to face these guys with balls dancing all over the place. That is a hard thing to to assume that it's going to behave the same way here or else. I've played in a tournament in the U.S. where we were, the first year we went, we got caught kind of with our pants down because they were actually letting the teams use two-piece balls. And we turned up with all these quarter balls, and of course the quarter ball's not moving around at all. And these guys have got these balls swinging, I mean, country mile. And we got 10 the first year, and then the second year, okay, I'm gonna take half, to Hoyt Zul, Dean remembers Hoyt, and Andre does too, I'm sure. Hoyt was on that tour with us. Hoyt built his first ball. I must have been about 2 sets of stumps down the leg side. To aim outside or off stump. He goes, brother, I was aiming off the pitch. It must have swung like 4 feet. And Johnny Newsom, Johnny was on that tour too. Johnny was swinging the ball around. It was good fun. I've had some good fun with cricket over the years in a lot of places. It's the good game that you can play for a long time. And when you get too old to play, you can come join me.
Earl, I've got 2 questions, burning questions. I love umpire. See.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Earl. One question. Throwing the ball into the ground. The fielder's throwing the ball into the wicketkeeper, right? And they threw it into the ground, right? Why is it that some umpires are lenient and some umpires are very strict? Now, the ball being returned to, the ball's being hit into covers, and then the cover fielder throwing it into the ground to get the ball soft, right, Doc? And then the keeper retrieving it.
So, kind of as a rule, as a guideline, what we say is if it's inside the 30-yard circle, because you got to remember, most of what we're playing these days, you've got restrictions, right? So if you're inside the 30-yard circle, there should be no issue you getting the ball in the air to the wicketkeeper.
Okay.
If you're on the boundary, again, depending on the game and the teams and who's playing, not everybody's going to be able to single ball in from the boundary, have it, And if you watch, again, international cricket, the model kind of is from the boundary areas to throw the ball in so it gets to the keeper on one bounce. Because it's easier to manage the ball coming at you when you're the ex-keeper, coming at you like that off the ground, than you trying to pick it up in the air with sun and everything else. So that bounce method is what seems to be the favorite thing now. But with the T20 grounds, even on TV, because they're smaller, these guys have got arms. The ball's coming in horizontal in some cases. So again, it's up to the umpire to kind of manage, decide what kind of players have I got, what's the skill levels, strength, is he doing it on purpose, is that just as good as he's going to be able to throw? But inside the 30-yard circle, we tend to tell teams, let's go get the ball up. It shouldn't be bouncing all over the place.
Okay. The second question I have is how difficult, right, is it in the 2020 game when you've got batsmen that are moving all over the place, all in the crease, and I've seen batsmen a wide ball, right? So the batsman goes way outside the leg stump, the ball goes across the leg stump, and the umpire signaling them wide. You see a wide, and then they don't signal wide, and then again, this thing of batsmen moving for LBW. This is how difficult is it for a 2020 game? These guys are doing all this stuff. So how difficult is it for you?
So again, if we live off the playing condition, right? There's a difference between cricket law and playing conditions. So 50 over and 20 over, we have Bermuda Cricket Board regulations that are massively based on ICC regulations. We're lucky that we try and keep them as close as we can, or what makes sense to keep them as close to ICC regs. The reason we do that is two things. One, our players are not unfamiliar to those regulations when they go and play international. So we try and keep the Bermuda regs as close as we can to international. It also helps our umpires. I go and do an international tournament. When I was in Jamaica, there's not a whole big learning curve because all of a sudden they're playing at a completely different format than what we're used to in the league here. Now, not all countries are like that. A lot of the Caribbean countries, especially the smaller, the women's and leewards, they still play, a lot of open cricket. They don't necessarily play a lot of 50 over, or may not have the field restriction regulations or power plays on. Like there's all these variations on that. But in general, the playing condition is what tells us what we're doing for that particular competition. So the only thing it states about wise in particular. There's a clause, I know from memory. It says, for avoidance of doubt, a ball that pitches down leg, that continues down leg, should be called a wide. Right? So a ball that pitches on center stump, that goes behind the batsman's legs, that's up to me to decide, yes, that's a wide. Because it
Okay.
didn't pitch outside of that, right?
Mhm.
It gets more complicated with batsman backing away. So if the ball is 2 inches away from leg stump, if he hadn't moved, that's where it would have gone. Well, if he's tucked his legs in because he's worried about it hitting the back of his legs, am I supposed to call that a wide? I'm probably not going to call it a wide. The further it strays down leg, the more likely I am to call it a wide. And then you have on the offside, again, there's all sorts of interpretation things there. A batsman starts drifting across or starts to play a reverse sweep, shapes up to do a reverse sweep before the ball's delivered in. And now the ball goes down, within reach of him, but it's outside the wide guideline. Well, I'm not going to call that a wide. You can play that, mate. You're going over, you cross the whole set of stumps. You're standing outside off stick. That ball is right there. That ball is now not a wide because you brought it back into play.
Okay.
So all that stuff, again, is going on in our mind at full speed. Once the ball's going through, I'm going through those laws in my head now. Is that a wide still, or has he done something to now make it not a wide?
Mhm.
Okay, that's as close as I can explain it. Without there is no drawing a line in the sand. There's still some interpretation.
you. Yes.
Yeah. As soon as the batsman starts moving around, we're talking about.
Well, Oscar, I want to thank you very much for your time. Hopefully, we get word from the cricket board when there is a start date, and then obviously you'll ramp up your guys as you already have to ensure that we have the manpower to facilitate these games for the upcoming season, regardless or no matter what format they want to start with and go through. So, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys, we're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to round up our overseas players who played this weekend. We'll be right back.
Spring has sprung, and it's time for the Friends of Hospice Butterfly Blast annual raffle. The butterflies are emerging bigger and better than before this year, and there's over $40,000 worth of prizes to make things more exciting. 3 Caterpillar raffles containing $1,000 gift certificates leading up to the main draw. There are multiple chances to win, so buy early and increase your odds of winning. So spring into action and get yours today. Check our Facebook page, Friends of Hospice Bermuda, for details, or call 232-0859. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. But before we get to the roundup, we just want to reiterate that the Bermuda Sports Phase 2 of reopening has been announced by the government. Groups of 10 can get together, no contact, 6 feet between participants, mass except during physical exertion, 30 minutes between groups to allow for cleaning, and no fans. So that's what we've come into effect today from the government as far as returning to sports. Now, we know that once again, Delray was in action for Sussex. A 4-day turned into a 3-day because they lost an entire day, third day yesterday. But they went down by an inning and 120 runs. They the first morning, rain, play not due to start until just after lunch. They lost the toss and were bowled out for 106 at one point in time. When Delray got out for without scoring in the first inning, they were 27 for 7.
Mm-hmm.
They managed to go on to get the 106, and then Northamptonshire would score 441 for 9, and then today, going back in with the score, they needed 188 runs this morning to send Nottinghamshire back to bat, but they were built out for 215. And I don't know if you saw it, Doc, or even you, Dean. Delray got out in a similar fashion as in the first inning. Ball pitched just outside the off stick. The first inning he flashed at it, got an edge. Today's out, he didn't flash at it. He sort of went to play. I'm not even sure if it was forward defense but the ball took an edge and caught by the wicketkeeper. So, and body language tells me a lot. He was really disappointed in both shots played in this particular game. Shoulders drop, head drop. Especially today's one. I don't know if you saw it, Doc. Did you?
No, I didn't see it. How much runs did he score?
He didn't score no runs in either inning.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no. No, I didn't
Yeah.
say
9
10
balls
Well,
today, 5 balls the first day.
You know, Earl, I feel for him because I think it's a bad day at the office for the whole team. And then I guess, you know, he wanted to stand up and just, you know, be the one to just, you know, push him a little further. But again, when it's a bad day at the office, and I wouldn't want to be in that change room, you know, because each
Yeah.
player, you know, you want to do something special. But when the other team's on top of you, the way that they are, I mean, I just think it was just bad luck.
Well, if you look at it, and cricket's a funny game.
It is.
And in England, and you know, the English conditions
It is.
change like anything. So when it's an
Of course.
overcast day, that ball's gonna swing all over the place.
All
It's
over
gonna do
yes.
different things even on a good pitch. So they went to bed.
For both innings.
Just finished raining. Afternoon comes. Northamptonshire bat. Lovely.
Dry.
Day 2, Northamptonshire bat. Beautiful conditions.
They go back to bed
They
and
go
it's
back
bad
in
day.
the evening. Game ends. Next day, all day rain this morning, and then you're right back into it. So you're
Yeah.
batting in the worst possible conditions.
Yeah.
But again, people will say, well, they're professionals and they should do that. Well, you know, you have a bowl doing a whole lot of stuff, and the batsmen need to apply themselves. And unfortunately, sometimes the ball beats the bat.
Of course. And again, I mean, I wouldn't. I guess the coach right now has a lot to do. I mean, he has a lot to do in making sure that, you know, he keeps everybody, you know, just keeps the confidence high. Because really, once you start to lose confidence, I mean,
Yep.
it starts to, you know, the cracks start to come in, and you got to be very, very careful. So, I mean, I just hope that they can turn around, you know, next game and they could just go ahead and bounce back.
Right. Well, as I said, Doc, a lot of rain throughout England yesterday, so a lot of our players especially in the under-19 setup, was unable to play. I know last week we talked about Kamal playing for K-Thorpe. They were unable to play yesterday. Their game got rained out. But today, Dominic Sabir scored 51.
Oh, nice.
50 not out off of 65 balls. He had 7 4s and a 6, helping Warminster to defeat Chippingham Cricket Club's their third 11. He played for their second 11 by 8 wickets. Another youngster, Marcus Scotland, scored 41 in helping his team, under 18 team, win. And Logan Jones, his match, it got rained out, but he did get a chance to. He played for Segberg's second 11 against Trimpal Cricket Club. Trimpal batted first, scored 176 for 7 in their 45 overs. Jones bowled 5 overs, no maidens, 1 for 37. But when Segberg were on 46 for 1 after 9.5 overs, the rain halted play. So unfortunately, those were the only 3 matches that actually got underway this weekend with the players. So you know, with their schools, they're playing midweek, so the possibility of actually improving on their skills is far greater out there with so much weather unpredictable.
Of
I
course.
also heard that Jerry Blakeney is playing for some team up in Manchester.
Manchester,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I think he got a few wickets today. He plays for Bay during the he was playing for Bay last season.
Yes.
I think he got a couple of wickets early on in his game too.
Beautiful.
I was just looking at my messages just now, and I see he got a few wickets too. So
Okay.
But that game was still in process, so I don't know. But I know he got a couple of wickets early too.
Right.
These are all under 19 players.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Just hearing the fact that we got a lot of these under 19s in the mix now. They got to be going for the game here because they bring that attitude, that performance, that mindset back here, and then try to emulate what they've been taught. I mean, when you guys were coming along, we didn't have as many.
No,
especially playing,
no,
in the UK, it was one or
no.
two here, maybe one or
right.
two there.
That's right.
But now when you start talking about 8, 9s, and 10s and so forth, and now that we have a professional as well, it kind of changes the ball game a little bit because now you have something to strive to.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to see more and more and more to go over and hone their skills.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I mean, like you said, I mean, the future looks promising to me. It
Right.
really, really, really looks promising to me because we were concerned about our players getting the exposure, and
Mhm.
now the youngsters are getting the exposure. We just have to ensure that we protect this game here and set up everything right here on island to make it all that attractive. Make it all that attractive for even the youngsters here to get a good foundation to go over.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we continue the cycle that has started.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, gents, we've come to the end of another cricket show. Next week we'll look to have more guests to talk about it. And hopefully by then we'll have an update from the cricket board as to when and if a season will get started. What's the plans? What's direction? So that clubs can really start preparing. So
Yeah.
hopefully, that happens in the very near future, and we can then elaborate a little more on it next week Sunday.
Yeah. And I really wanted to ask Oscar about who was that player that he didn't give that decision to. I believe it was me. I knew it was me. Doc, it was me because I flicked off the bills, and he didn't give the guy out. And then he says something. I said, yeah, well, a better umpire would have gave him out. He looked at me and says, yeah, but I'm a wicket keeping. I've wicket keep before, so I'm a wicket keeping umpire. I still haven't forgiven for it, Doc. I'm telling you, nigga, yes. I was gonna say something. I say, no, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna leave him alone. I might have to see him again in Central Corners. I'm gonna leave him alone. Hurt my feelings too, man. Hurt my feelings. That's all right.
So what you're saying? You ain't give up the gloves yet?
I think.
heard you say something about Central Corners.
Hey, I always say, I think I got one more game in me. I think I got one more.
One more game?
Huh? I think I got one more game. I still haven't got over the drop catch. The one Doc, listen, Central Corners ball was skied, right? Way up in the air. I went underneath it, ball went right through my gloves. Yeah. One of the umpires came, pat me on my back and said, you know what? I think it's time. And I said, time for what? He said, yeah, time to you go sit on over there. Went right through my gloves. Hey, everybody couldn't hate. They said, where's your glasses, mate? Huh? I ran right through me, Doc, like that.
Well, we have them days.
Huh?
We have those days. We have those days.
Sure.
Yeah,
without those days, there's nothing to laugh at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good evening, all right?
Enjoy, guys. Talk to you
Okay.
later. See you next week.
Cheers.
Take care.